I was having lunch with a friend yesterday, and right in the middle of the lunch, there was a huge storm. And the day before that, and the day before that, out of nowhere, these uh, uh, unexpected thunderstorms came with warnings that these are going to be major and take shelter. And nothing in the forecast said anything about that. And they were huge thunder and lightning storms. Some of you may have experienced them who are up here. Uh, Enough to literally rattle the house, which is kind of a new sensation for me. And when the storm started and we were sitting talking in the restaurant, this friend said, "This feels biblical." And I went, "Yep," because my nature is to dramatize and provide narrative to things that are happening. And this felt really finger pointing and large and powerful. And it was not isolated because anyone who watches the news, reads the newspapers, looks around, knows that things are not what they were. And things are changing and stuff is at hand. And oh, how to deal with the biblical, the Noah's Ark of our existence. There was a point, biblically speaking, that Noah just found mankind wanting, not good enough, somehow failing in some way, and decided quite miraculously or spontaneously, or miraculous is probably the wrong word, but to get rid of everybody, except for Noah and his family and animals. And that's very biblical. Um, but if you go through the Bible, it's not totally unique that mankind has gone through very, very traumatic times. And a lot of our rulers, even the ones who are really considered among our best, like King Solomon, killed half his family to maintain his power. We're not exactly in living in a can I say, a paradisical space. There's a lot that goes on here, and we have to kind of come to grips with who are we in this drama that is life. And I woke up this morning thinking about, again, the biblical nature of things, and I went back to look at my own life, and I thought, well, you know, although I think of myself as having had a really wonderful life, I was born in the middle of the greatest war ever on the planet. Half of my ancestors, not half of them, but 6 billion of them, 6 million of them were put to death in concentration camps. Um, I lived through a Korean War. I lived through the development of a bomb that can destroy all of humanity. I lived through a Vietnam War. I lived through a time when Black people could not go into restaurants with some white people, could not sit at the counters. I mean, the list, goes on and on, and uh, and clearly continues to this day. And I look at the patterns that are forming around us, and they are in many ways uncomfortable. Some of them are possibly apocalyptic, certainly like global warming, and the political horizon for America is questionable. But what I want to get back to is, yes, biblical. Yes, this has always been the case. It has never been other. And even though we may relate to this as finger pointing by the highest powers that be, and it kind of is, how do we face that? And if you think you can meditate yourself out of being part of the human race, no. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I think you can meditate yourself into a place of profound goodness, kindness, and acceptance of life and the people around you. I drive whenever I go anywhere through country roads that are like another century. And I look at all the houses and they have hanging baskets and people are mowing the lawns, and there's an incredible sense of community and belonging. And I look at all of this and I go, you know, humanity used to live in caves. We used to live in very difficult, painful circumstance. We now live in a kind of extraordinary beauty and comfort. That's something that's never really been available to the human race until actually very, very recently. I mean, just the idea of air conditioning, heat in the house, windows. I mean, I can go on, really comfortable furniture. We, of the last century, have lived the best life that human beings have ever lived. This is not by chance. This is an achievement. It is something that humanity has been able to bring about. Now, there are very dark forces in the world that want and do try to destroy this for reasons that remain narcissistically complicated and things that I cannot fully comprehend. And so the world has, from the beginning of time, had to deal with these dark forces. They are not everywhere because the masses of people, I think, unless maybe given power, but the masses of people tend to be pretty good people. And I drive around and I get this joy of looking at a house that has been taken care of. I see cars in the driveway, sometimes visitors. I see people out on the lawn. I see kids playing. I see the grass mowed, on and on and on. And I go, this is a pretty amazing world that we live in. Pretty extraordinary that we have arrived at a place where there is so much goodness, achievement, and community. Now, of course, all of that's starting to fray on some level. But again, the fraying of everything around us is not new to the human experience, because there is within all of us elements of darkness. Jung would call it shadow. All of us carry these forces, and to some degree or another, we work that as best we can to try to be accommodating, kind, compassionate, and loving for others. We don't always pull it off, obviously, but there's an effort of trying. There's an effort of sharing our best self with others. And one of the better ways to get in touch with that best self is through stillness, quietude, and entering the portals of your own heart and your own mind and your own gut, and discovering that somehow the thing that governs your nature from deep inside carries these forces of love, kindness, beauty, goodness, all of that. It's right inside you. And if you make the effort to go there rather than to the superficial spaces of reactivity and anger and annoyance and frustration and all of that stuff that tends to dominate so many of our lives, if you can make the effort to go in, you discover the unbelievable compassion of being a human being connected to something greater. The mere act of doing that is not by itself a protection against the dynamics of the materialized world. This world is a world of good and evil, up and down, happy, sad, all of those things. It's got all of that working. But if you go into yourself and you go really deeply, you get to see it with an eye called an empathetic eye or a compassionate eye, and you discover that you can, even in the face of the worst, find love and goodness and kindness and embrace of those who are suffering and having a hard time, including yourself. Because you are going to go through the biblical journey like everyone has since the beginning of time. Biblical means the world is a place of, if you will, trial, struggle, effort, but also unbelievable kindness, goodness, connection, and love. It's all of the above. It has always been all of the above. And how you choose to live your life is your, in a way, choice. It may be your programming, but there is this thing of choice that comes into play. And along the way, you get to see examples of what it means to be a good person. You may choose not to go there. You may choose through anger and hostility and frustration and, sort of having had a terrible life to continue the terribleness of your existence. That's, people do that. But the compassionate people look at others and go, I get it. I get it. And in most cases, you can get most other people. You can get why they are who they are. And if you're conscious, you can actually love them in spite of who they are, in spite of their struggle. And in fact, if you can love people in spite of it, sometimes they actually experience that love. And it is transformative. It changes them from the angry, spiteful, annoyed human being they are into somebody more relaxed, more open, more accepting. That's a gift. And it's a gift every one of you can give other people every day if you are finding the internal nourishment yourself that allows you to become a vessel for that. In the biblical world, there is all of this kind of struggle, but all of that struggle has worked itself up to a time and place where we live in mass societies of mostly good people. Mostly. I think we're all problematic. We all have issues. We all have our dramas and all have our stuff. But the fact that huge cities and huge countries and little villages all work and sustain themselves is amazing. Now, we may be beginning to see a fraying of that. We may start to see things falling apart. There's a lot going on. And, just weather itself, the weather patterns are like not people oriented. They are these incredible events being impacted, we're told, by people's activities. And to some degree, I really believe that, but they're also impacted by geological events, and we are all caught up in that. But they want to remind us that we are tiny little beings in a massive scope of existence. We are just tiny little beings. And what do these tiny little beings do? What can we do while we're living here in biblical times? Nothing more than we're doing now. Just be kind to others, hold hands, support each other, love each other, find community, be together, find a way to find shelter when the rains are coming. And when the rains start to break down your house, when the thunder and lightning explodes your environment, you're going to be very exposed. And we're all on the verge of possibly being very exposed to more and more dynamic forces than we have ever met. Biblical, but historically, from the beginning, it's always been thus. So if we get hit by the biblical, again, what do? My understanding is we hold each other. We hold each other as best we can. Hold hands, be good to each other. Don't give in to just sitting in your house in your closet with a gun. I don't think that's the answer. And I don't know how big and dynamic all this will be, but I do know that there's a skill set that will make it easier for you to hold hands with others. And that's to find your core self, to find your goodness, to find your inner being, and just really let that speak out loud to everyone around you. It's really powerful. I'm reading some of my old scripts, and I came across a line that I'd totally forgotten that Rudy had said, but it really spoke to this moment, I think. And it said, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. Rudy's line, even though I'll be shitting in my pants every step of the way. I think that's really important because so many people are trying to use their meditative spiritual life to get out of the way, to get liberated, to get magically lifted up out of the core of human experience. And all I can tell you is if you're shitting in your pants every step of the way, you're human. You're human. Be human. But if you want to be really deeply human, dive deep into your humanity, which is in your heart and in your belly and in your brain, and just go deep. And what you will find there is what makes you human, which is something I would call holy. I like the word whole, complete, something completing that's existing inside you. And those of you who have meditated deeply, those teachers who have meditated really deeply, the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas of the world, they know whatever happens here, whatever happens in this incredibly manifested miracle of existence, comes from a place deep inside that is whole. And I believe, forgive me if I'm wrong, you won't be able to, but I believe this inner space is what you would call indestructible. It is infinite, eternal being, and its primary force, its primary energy is love. It is beauty. It is truth. It is manifesting itself for whatever reason, but we get to be here to drive down the street and look at happy people living in their homes, or maybe always somewhat approaching happy. It's a struggle. Yes, it's a struggle. It's always a struggle. But the struggle is so beautiful and so extraordinary. And those of you who wake up anytime during the day and say, wow, and you feel good and happy for 1 second, have touched it. You just touch it. And those of you who sit and do the practice and meditate and dive deep, you don't only touch it, you get to actually spend time in that space. You get to spend time in this embrace. And trust me, it too is biblical. It too comes from, in the beginning, there was God. It was the word. It could be Om. It's whatever, the expression of this infinite, eternal, loving, and I'm going to say that without, certainty, because I've given up all certainty, but my experience of being tells me that the core is loving. It's just loving. And if you take a breath and you go inside and you sit long enough, you will know that to be true. You don't have to debate it and think about it and try it and write books about it or read books about it. You just have to go there. Just go there and you will feel. Today is my mother's Yortzeit, which in Hebrew terms is memory of the day of her passing. 30 years ago today she passed, which is amazing to me. And, I remember the day vividly, and I was in the middle of making a movie called My Life, and my mother was in it. And the moment that we were working on in the film was the re-recording of some of the materials that go into the movie. And the scene we were doing was my mother welcoming people at the door. And so I flew home from the funeral to see my mother for 1 week, welcoming people in the most perfect way that my mother was able to welcome people. And she was the best welcomer ever because she had this huge heart. And I realized that I am one of the great beneficiaries of her heart. I'm the beneficiary of her heart and Rudy's heart. I'm the beneficiary of a marriage to this amazing woman named Blanche. I'm a beneficiary of children who actually reflect love back to me. I have a life where the inner and the outer merge and they move back and forth. Some of us get that, some of us don't. And all I can tell you is the love that my mother was able to transmit to me, which came from her and her mother, was pure and it was profound. And one of the things I have come to understand is what it means to be grateful and appreciative for the gifts given, and what it means when you don't have those gifts, because a lot of people don't. And so the job of a meditator, the job of a spiritual person, is to find that space on your own, whether it was given to you, you were born into it, or whether you had to work your ass off to get there, to find it and then share it the way my mom shared it. She was not a meditator. She had no idea what meditation was, but she had a heart. Her mother had a heart. The heart I have comes from them and Rudy really working it and making it become something I could use to share with other people. It's not Bruce on any level. It is this other thing that every one of us is at the core connected to. We are not separate from one another. We're not separate from source. We are one with this extraordinary quality of being, and it is biblical. It is biblical. I don't know if the world is going to come to an end. I don't know what's going to happen. I think, I mean, do you want to know what the truth is? It is going to come to an end. At some point, it will, whether we're in it or not. You know, whether our great-great-great-grandchildren or any are just friends and relatives are in it, it's going to, at some point, come to an end. So are we. I never imagined that my own ending would also involve possibly an ending of the planetary experience. That I don't like. I have a hard time and I'm shitting in my pants, to be honest. I don't relate to it well. I don't want to see suffering on that scale. I don't like people having these huge bombs. I don't like madmen running the world. I don't like it. But here I am, and I'm driving along these peaceful streets with beautiful people. I'm sitting in front of you, and you are among the most beautiful people I've ever come to know. And I am just a lucky human being. And will it be over at any moment? It will be over. And will I say goodbye with joy? Having had joy, the answer is yes, I will. You know, my favorite idea is to just go yes when the time comes. And in a way, it's not bad to do daily. Yes, 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 yes. And to remember, in Rudy's terms, if it's in front of you, it's yours. And again, this line that I started playing with a few months ago, if it's in front of you, it's God. Trust me. None of this is anything but biblical. Nothing. It's all part of a whole. We are in it. We are one with it. We probably transcend it at the end. We will find out. If I'm wrong, you know, let's hold hands. Let's dance together. Let's hug together. Let's be together during whatever life decides to do. And to know that we were lucky to know each other, because I'm telling you, we are the most lucky people I can imagine, because we are talking about referencing, experiencing, and connecting to this deeper truth. It's an exquisite thing. And we are here to know that. We are here to share that. And whatever brought us together, say thank you, because it was a gift. So open to the biblical, open to yourself, open to the meditative, open to the spiritual, open to the life around you, because it's all we got. And it's only temporary anyway. So enjoy. Anything to be said, George?
Just what you're saying, what really always said, and look, it's the key 500 woman said yesterday. You have to work.
Pardon?
You have to work. Get there.
Yeah, George is saying that he and Rudy and this Dakini woman he met with yesterday, he said you have to work to get there.
I would work for 25 years.
Yeah, well, this woman sat alone for 25 years in silence. You know, I'm not invested in that. And the thing I loved about Rudy was work for him was the work in the world. But if you sit by yourself for 25 years, you're going to find something. Buddha only sat for 6, and he found something amazing. That the world is a manifestation. The world is, you know, the place where work pays off. Rudy forced me to become a worker in the world. Forced is the wrong word. Made it possible, directed me. You know, I mean, I can't tell you how hard Rudy worked to make me understand that the world is where I had to do it. So I really believe in that. But I also was walking around this morning and I was feeling some tension. And I just said, breathe, breathe. And I kept breathing, and I breathed really deeply. And the tension went away. And I said, of course, of course. The work, Rudy's work, is breathing. It's just breathing, deep breathing. I mean, it's more than that, because you have to go inside and you have to do this asking for help to surrender. And if you can draw energy into yourself, it really helps. But it's not a passive thing, and it doesn't happen if you don't do it. Work, the work, which Rudy called it, the work, is crucial. It's central to this whole process. You don't just sleep your way into it. It cannot happen that way. We are either doing the work or we're not. And that's kind of your choice. And, a lot of us are getting older. Some people are just connecting to this now. You can't do a life's work in 2 months or 3 years or 10 years. It's a life's work. On the other hand, it's a many lifetimes work, maybe. Certainly the Buddhists and Hindus would say that. So hopefully you're bringing something to the table that was done before, but I don't know that to be a fact. The reality is, do it now. Do it now. Do the work. Sit down, breathe, open, ask for help, and let the tensions of the moment fall away. It's really vital. But I don't think anybody here is now going to sit for the next 10 years in stillness or silence. I don't prescribe that, but I do prescribe whatever opportunity you have, hopefully daily, you can just sit, take these breaths and open yourself to the universe and to the love and the guidance from inside. It will help you so much. Anyone else?
Bruce,
Yes.
Dale,
Yes, Dale.
4 years ago, my grandson took his own life. And this weekend, every year since, a friend of his organizes a baseball tournament. And 16 teams of people come together. And I never want to go. I don't like standing around in the heat and trying to find people that I know. I don't know people in that community except my family. But anyway, I make myself go for Jacob. And I was so aware of the sense of community that was there supporting my daughter and her husband and their remaining son, Logan, who is playing ball in this tournament, and Sean and Craig both working at it. So they were much too busy to have time for me. But it's like I kept thinking, Rudy's saying, if it's in front of you, it's yours. And something just opened my heart to it all. And all of a sudden, I was glad to be there and part of it.
It's not turning away from life. It's embracing it. It's not saying I can't, I don't. You just say okay, and you keep moving forward into these incredible spaces, and you never know how it will play out. But I watch life work, and it's an unbelievable dance. And when you're in touch with the flow, and when you follow the thing that's in front of you, these things take place that are just remarkable, really remarkable. And yesterday, Blanche and I went with my son Josh and wife Evan and my grandchildren to this big bread and puppet theater program. It was so crowded, it was so overwhelmingly jam-packed that we could barely see the performances. And we sat in the back and we had a little bit of a view. And then these people came and stood right in front of us, just stood there, like blocking the view entirely. And the grandkids went up front and people moved around. I just sat there and I thought, I could get angry at all these people who are blocking my view, not thinking even for a second that they're doing that. But then I just thought, why? And I just sat there and I just embraced. I could barely see the stage. I could barely hear what was happening, but I was in this environment. And so I just looked at the people. I felt so much love and joy. These little kids all over the place, people bouncing up and down. Life was happening in front of me. I didn't have to see the show. The show was everywhere. And, Blanche and I was going to take these chairs with me. I'd forgotten it was like half a mile walk with chairs. So in the end, the last minute, I took these very light chairs. What told me to take the light chairs? They're less comfortable, but boy, they work. And I thought back on it and I thought, something is there. Something is watching over me. And at one point I got up to take a little video of the proceedings, and they were playing this music from Appalachian Spring. And there's a point in it that does this great old, I don't know what you call it, piece of music, but it's from a song, from a Quaker song called "'Tis a Joy to Be Simple, 'Tis a Joy to Be Free." That as soon as I turned on my phone, that's what they were playing. And I went, boop, how did I get that moment? And I played the whole song. It's one of my favorite because it's just so light and beautiful. And I looked at the orchestration of the day, obstruction, difficulty, carrying stuff, all of this, but it was the universe working for my pleasure and the pleasure of all these other people in their own way. People were obstructive and they didn't know it. And I thought, am I going to serve them telling them they're obstructive? No. I just sat back and accepted. It was the greatest teaching. The whole day was a great teaching and pure joy for me, one thing after another. And it's recognizing when these little things happen, they are blessed and they are part of a totality. They don't have to be, but it's great when they do happen and you realize it and you go, thank you. Just go, thank you. And we all have that. And I know you have that with your with the baseball game. And we all have different versions of that in our lives. Try to see the beauty of what is in your life. And if you can look at that and you can touch that, you can walk around saying, thank you. Really important. Okay. Is that enough?
One more.
Oh, Marty.
I don't know how to put this. I had a conversation with a friend, Jamie, the other day. And what came up was that I was very tired of people relate to my work, and that it really, when I get into like being upset about what people are saying, like it, this and that, and I just don't know how to let go of all of that. And she was saying, if you don't let go, you'll have to come back and do it again. And the thought was like, oh my God, I just can't. I just can't. I don't know how.
Marty's, you probably can't hear her. She has an amazingly beautiful art show going on right now in not too far from here. And we went to the opening the other night, and she's describing how painful it is for her to let go of people's reactions to her work. It's so important. I will tell you, I work with you on a regular basis on that exact thing. For years, the attachment to that, because it is the primary attachment and obstruction that you deal with in this lifetime. And it goes deeper than that, but it is foundational, fundamental. And if I leave this world with you not caring about how people react to your artwork, I will feel like I lived a good life. That's kind of how I look at it. Your attachment to that. And I have, my artwork's up now in a gallery too. And I don't think people like it very much. And I can't tell all the time. They walk in, don't look at it, keep moving, and I go, I finally, because I've had so much experience with reviews of movies and all that kind of stuff, and have had terrible reviews and people hating my work, and I go, it broke me apart. It just took me to pieces. And what I've discovered, and I think I've shared it so many times, I don't know how to keep doing that, but one of the things that happened with one of these films that was so terrible in its reviews was this one person telling me how deeply it had changed their life. And that experience was enough. And then I realized that I made all of this work for one person. But, the thing we don't know, you don't always hear from that one person. You just don't know at all. You just don't know that your work had an impact. I will tell you, if nothing else, I am one of those people. I love your work. I love it. I love the dynamic of it. I love the process. I love who you are. I love how you make your work. I love the intelligence that goes behind it. I think it is brilliant stuff. Is it challenging? Yes. Will it challenge most people? Yes. Can you live with that? Probably not.
No, I can.
Well, okay.
But caring about what people, that.
I get it.
Yeah.
Well, it's your work. This is your work. And in the end, whether they like you or don't like you, or like your art or don't like your art, not up to you. Not up to you. Just let it go. I mean, I'm saying that like it's easy. That is your practice. That is your work. And in the end of your life, you will come down to whether or not you pulled that off. And Janie's kind of right. If there is a rebirth thing, that thing may still be core central. And it's a lot more than just your art. It's about acceptance and being loved and being open and being received and being grasped and understood. Nobody is completely loved and grasped and understood. Nobody. Nobody. Doesn't happen. You got to do it. You have to open to appreciate who you are, what you do. Your work is beautiful, but I don't have to tell you that. You have to tell yourself that, and you have to be free of the world's opinion. Okay, we can talk privately about that. But anyway, guys, there's a oh, I'm sorry, Dean. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to see if you would expand a little bit more because I'm facing a similar struggle with feeling rejected. I mean, it's not about artwork, it's more about my work. So I'm trying to figure out, like, just for me specifically, like, am I aligned in the right place? Should I be trying to do something else? But again, it comes back down to I'm not getting the feedback from the world that says, yes, we love you, Dean, and we want you to be with us and we'll pay you to do this work. But so more broadly, like, is it just about persistence? Is it about not caring and like just feeling so centered that I'm going to continue? Or
It's kind of the whole package. I mean, it's not, there's no simple answer. Maybe there is a simple answer and other people will come up with it, but we're complex beings. A lot of us depend on people liking us, employing us, caring about us, keeping us in their good graces. That's part of the world. What's that dance? Most of us try to figure that out. Some people couldn't care less. Some people just go off and live in the mountains. You can't do that. You've got a wife and a child. You have to be able to find a way to make it all happen. But the best way is to open your heart, relax inside, and find the way to do the dance so that you're not doing it with constriction and tightness and annoyance and fear and anger, which just gets in the way and pollutes the entire environment. So your part of the equation is open your heart, say, I would love other people. Hopefully, if you're open and sweet and easy enough, that will come back to you. If it's about skill sets that are not working properly, you've got to develop the skill set. There's no easy formula for any of us, not for any of us. It takes so much work. And that's why, George was saying, the work. The work is making yourself available to the drama of being human. And it's really hard, but you have a great skill set. I've known you for a long time. You can pull this off if you want to. And we're not getting into the specifics, but I can only tell you it is hard. And most of us are scared, and most of us don't know what to do. But I will tell you, my experience, if this helps at all, go inside and ask for help. Ask for help. Why did Rudy say? He didn't say just do it, muscle through. Ask for help too. He said surrender, but the thing about surrender is it opens you up to answers. It opens you up to guidance. It opens you up to the thing that tells you how to live your life. And so many people look at a book or they read an article in the People magazine. I don't know what they do to figure out how to live their lives, but I'm telling you, the guides are not out there. They're in here, and someone like me talking or another teacher talking is trying to push you into that space. They're trying to get you to go into your teacher, not into the other teachers. Go to your teacher, and your teacher's right there. Trust me, really there. And I know you well enough to know that teacher's in you, and I know your mother is a bit of a guide to that. There are guideposts, and your love for your daughter, these things really do open things up and help you see exactly the answer you need to a question. And I'll tell you, if the answer doesn't come, my feeling has always been the universe says it doesn't matter. Go one way or the other. But if you're quiet enough, there will be an answer that will tell you. And trust me, if it comes and you get an answer, do it. But if you get no answer, you're okay, because you can go right or left and you'll be fine. Okay?
Can I add something?
Yeah.
Like, there's this idea, or there's a common wisdom that says you are what you've done. And I feel like I withdrew for years, and now, like, I can't change those decisions I've already made. And like, now I feel like I can't overcome the consequences of those decisions. Is that all just head?
No, there's some truth to that, but it may not matter.
Hmm.
You know, if you bring enough to the table right now, it may be powerful enough, directed enough to overcome everything from the past. We all have past mistakes, everybody. We all have things in our lives that didn't get done, should have gotten done, might have gotten done, and we would all be totally stuck if we lived in those spaces. If you come from the energy of the now, of this moment, and you recreate yourself, you bring the dynamic of you to the table, it can undo all of that stuff or just toss it out the window. You know, I mean, for me, it's really interesting because I had a really interesting life full of a career and all that stuff. I have zero connection. I mean, it's there, but I don't think about it. It doesn't inform my current life. I just lived right now, and it's the richest time I've ever had. So all I can tell you is having done or having not done are the same thing. It's just past. It's past tense. It doesn't matter unless you keep refeeding it and giving it strength and power and energy. And then it does matter because it's informing your life and your failure to move forward simply. And the best way to move forward simply is get rid of all of that and just take the energy of now, which is infinite, eternal, and dynamic beyond belief, and go forward. Just do it.
Thank you.
It's not that hard. Trust me, it's not that hard. It's this thing that's getting in the way. Open it up, forgive yourself, because God knows we all need to be forgiven, and move forward. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is that enough, guys? Okay. Love you all. I hope that's a wave goodbye, not asking a question. Bye.
Love you. Thank you,
Yeah,
Bruce.
love you all, and we'll see everybody soon.